Today I wanted to talk about something that I have been thinking about for a really long time, and I feel like I've been talking to you about this for a really long time as well, and you were asking me if I could do a video on this, so here we go. Why does indie makeup feel so expensive all of a sudden? If you have been here for a really long time, I have been reviewing indie makeup on this channel for over 9 years at this point, and I remember a time when indie makeup felt like the more affordable option. Like instead of buying the expensive Sephora makeup, you were buying the little bit more affordable like indie makeup, and you were getting as good quality, sometimes better, and you were getting just funner colors and more, for me especially, I was living in Sweden at the point, a better accessibility to these brands for a lower cost. So why doesn't it feel like that anymore? What has changed? Because I remember when I started reviewing indie makeup, if a more expensive indie makeup came up, someone that was charging a little bit more for their product, I would get comments saying, why are they so expensive? This isn't real indie because they're too expensive. And nowadays, when I see indie brands come up and they're at a more affordable price range compared to other indie brands, I'll get the opposite. How come they're so affordable? This must be private label. This must be Alibaba makeup. There's no way they can be this affordable. And I kind of wanted to start there. How come some makeup is so affordable when some isn't? And there's a lot of things that goes into the cost of makeup. A lot of things that we don't always think about. And I would say the bigger the brand is and the more retailers they have, the more you kind of have to consider more costs into the production and into the cost of your makeup. So if you are sold at like Sephora and Ulta, for example, there's a lot of things that you have to pay for. For one, you have to pay for all the returns that is done at Sephora and Ulta. That is not paid for by Sephora, Ulta. No, the brands themselves have to pay for that. So if you are returning an indie makeup brand at Sephora, it might hit them harder than if you're returning, let's say, a L'Oreal product, because L'Oreal is such a big conglomerate. And that is why some indie brands are just not able to be at Ulta or Sephora, because they simply cannot afford some of the costs that come with being at a place like Sephora or Ulta. You also have to pay for your own gondolas, which, if you didn't know, can be a very, very expensive cost as well. It's also something that a lot of brands cannot afford to do. So these bigger brands, they have to cut a little bit into like the margin of the products also has to cover that. And all of the staff they have, all the personnel, all the marketing, all the things that a small indie brand might not have. They're more maybe having a smaller PR list, more relying on Instagram/TikTok views to get the name of their brand out, not as much doing like paid ads or anything like that. So that also is something that has to be like taken into consideration when you are putting the prices on a product. So how come some of these indie brands are having such a high price tag then on some of their products? I remember when I started reviewing indie makeup, I remembered Coastal Scents were so affordable. I remember even at the time, we thought that Makeup Geek was a more like expensive indie brand, but now comparing it to some of the indie brands that we have now, they all of a sudden seem pretty affordable. I also remember like Luxie and Divina, and there was a bunch of different brands. I even remember Makeup Addiction Cosmetics. I think their palettes used to be like between 20 and 30 pounds, which is like what, $35 or something, which is much less expensive than a palette today would be. So some of the things that have changed for sure when it comes to the indie community is what people are expecting to get. People are not, like, we used to lose our panties over a duochrome back in the day. Oh my god, a palette had a duochrome? Everybody stopped the presses. I'm calling my mom, I'm calling the president, there is a duochrome in this palette. Now, nobody cares. Nobody bats an eyelash over a duochrome. We're expecting sparkles and multichromes and holographic shades. We are expecting this immense quality, for good reason, from these indie brands, and they have really stepped up the quality. The thing that you can't really do much with is that ingredient that makes a special shadow special, the actual like ingredient. It's an expensive ingredient. And the more you put into a shadow, the more expensive the shadow becomes. And I have seen breakdowns of the cost of palettes where if you put like 1 or 2 multichromes in a palette, those 2 multichromes cost more than the entire palette. And that has to reflect on the price somehow. And it's just one of those things where it's like, if we are expecting to get those special shades that doesn't just have a hint of multichrome, it actually shows on the lid, we are gonna have to pay for it because it's just the price of the ingredient. Maybe that would change in the future. I don't know, but I can tell you right now that that is the main reason why a bunch of these indie brands are just a little bit more expensive right now. Their palettes might be 50, 60, 70, sometimes up towards $100. And it's because the more of those special things you put in, the more sprinkle also comes on the price. It's just the name of the game. I also will say that when it comes to makeup pricing, there's a lot of things that we don't take into consideration that cost. Like just packing your packages costs money. I have to pay, like I own my own brand, I have to pay for the packaging that the things come in. I also have to pay for the shipping for it to get from the factory to the warehouse. I have to pay for the warehouse. I have to pay for my designer. I have to pay for samples. I have to pay for someone to run my socials. I have to pay for the website, the domain, the tax people, because I don't want to mess up on taxes. There are so many things that cost money. And I will tell you, the cost is just like a funnel in your bank account. Just sucks all the money straight out again. And because now, of course, buying the products are so expensive with the ingredients and stuff, you kind of have to have some money on your account as well. Because when I put down an order for a new item, I have to pay that right away. I cannot pay that when I've gotten paid from my customers. No, they want the money before they're shipping it out. So that can be tens and thousands of dollars that you just have to pay like upfront. And sometimes the margins just honestly aren't as good as you might think with those high price tags, because the product's expensive, staff is expensive, tax, and at the end of the day, the brand owner has to pay themselves as well. Whatever left is left, you pay taxes on that, and that's your paycheck, because at some point you do need to get paid for your time as well, because it's not just time that it took to sell the product, it's also the time it took you to develop the product. And developing a product can take years. It can take a really long time. I also wanted to touch on one thing that I don't necessarily like. The first things I talk about, that I know. I know that for a fact. Now I'm gonna speculate about something that I don't know for a fact, and I say this mainly because I don't know the numbers. The numbers, how much makeup was sold in 2015, 16, 17, 18, that craze. I don't know the numbers. And I think one of the reasons why makeup is a little bit more expensive now is because two reasons. I think there are more brands right now, and I think people are buying a little less makeup right now than they used to. So the quantity, or like the amount of products that are available are more, and the amount of people buying it are less. So brands have to order less quantity when they're ordering stuff. And that's also one of the things. When you are ordering products, the more you order, the more of a discount you get. So every time you add on a couple of thousand more, you get an even deeper discount. And this could be one of the reasons. I'm saying, like, of course, inflation is making everything go up. But I also think, and this again, speculating. This is me speculating. I don't know this for sure. But I think one of the reasons that makeup has gotten more expensive is that I think that brands are not able to buy as much stock of each color, of each palette, of each item that they used to, and therefore the price is going up a little bit. Because the less you buy, the more each item costs. And that discount that they might have been able to get during the 2016-17 craze, maybe some of them just don't have that deep discount anymore, and then maybe the prices have to go up because it costs more to buy each product. And then, of course, we have to get into that it's not just indie makeup that has become more expensive. All makeup brands have become more expensive. And I also think that, like I said before, we're in this, some of us are still in this, well, indie brands are supposed to be more affordable than Sephora brands. And I think that, like, when indie brands up their quality to be, let's be honest, the eyeshadows from indie brands are better than most Sephora brands, if not all. The quality just is better, and it's because they are able to put more of their money into the formulation instead of putting it into Sephora returns and gondolas and staffing and marketing and blah, all of that. They can put more money into the formulation. So when you deal with more expensive ingredients, you're gonna get a better product. That's just the way it is. But also makeup at Sephora and makeup at Ulta at the drugstore, it's gotten more expensive. And I will say now, some indie brands, and I know as an example, I know some of the, is it like 15 pan palettes or something like that from Bella Beauté bar, they're the same cost as a Natasha Denona palette. I honestly think that Bella Beauté bar is similar, if not better quality. I said what I said. It might not be everyone's favorite when it comes to quality, but there is nothing wrong with the quality from Bella Beauté bar. I think that the cost of a lot of things that goes into Natasha Denona is packaging, because packaging is also very expensive. More expensive than I think people realize. Expensive pigments is expensive, but also those custom packagings that you see from like Sephora and luxury brands, when they have their own special metal or plastic packaging that you can tell they didn't just pick something from a catalog, they were able to custom mold something, that's expensive. Tens of thousands of dollars just to get that special packaging. And then I'm not talking about the packaging itself. No, I'm just talking about the mold. Like, it can be so expensive to develop your own custom packaging. And that's the reason, of course, why a lot of indie brands just are not able to do something like that, because to do it really, really well, you have to put down a lot of money. And that's also where a lot of the cost comes from brands that you see readily available at like Sephora and Ulta and stuff like that. They paid that initial cost for their special packaging as well. And they have to divide that cost and put it on their future products, because somehow they have to get that cost back as well. So that's also something that's part of the cost of something that you will see at Sephora or Ulta. And I do think that the reason why a lot of indie makeup right now is, instead of being that 25 pounds that Makeup Addiction Cosmetics used to be, they're like 60, 70, is because the ingredients are more expensive. They're probably buying less stock than the other brands did back then. And I also think that consumers are expecting more from websites. You can't just build your own website anymore. They're expecting more from websites. They're expecting more from product photography, swatches, product development, design of palettes, and all of that costs a lot of money, and it has to be put on somewhere. And I also will say one thing that is always going up in cost is shipping. Shipping is so expensive. So incredibly expensive, and I get notified at least once a month from my warehouse that the cost of shipping is going up. But I am not increasing my cost of shipping. So we have to eat that cost somewhere, because I just can't be increasing the cost of shipping once a month. So we kind of have to do it every now and then. But sometimes when you see brands up the price of their products, it could be because shipping, not only from the company to the customer, but also from the factory to the warehouse, or between warehouses, or from the warehouse to Sephora, that shipping is also getting more expensive, and the cost has to end up somewhere. And I know, especially for indie brand, it's really hard, because they usually do not put the cost of shipping into their products. And that's why you sometimes see, when you go to an indie brand, you might not get free shipping, or you might not get discounted shipping, and it's because they're charging you what USPS or UPS or DHL is charging them. But if you go to other sites where they're offering you free shipping, it means that they took that cost of shipping and they put it on the products instead. So someone is always paying for shipping, and let me tell you right now, that's always going to be the consumers. That's not coming from the CEO's paycheck. I can tell you that right now. I touched on this briefly, but I really want to really hone on this one. Why do I think that indie makeup has become more expensive with time? And it's because of expectations. More people has discovered indie makeup now than ever. When I started reviewing indie makeup, there was no way on earth that anyone that was a bigger YouTuber would ever review a smaller indie brand. But now we see it happen every now and then. They do know about indie brands. Indie brands are being shared on Trend Mood. People talk about indie brands, and people even like inside the beauty community, but maybe not like as diehard as I might be, they still know about quite a few of these indie brands. And I remember like when Juvia's Place started, we used to say like, oh my god, this is so pigmented, this is so amazing. We used to swoon about their very metallic eyeshadows and how they had these duochromes. But if you look at Juvia's Place now and you look at what we are like getting offered from other indie brands, they kind of fell off a little bit. They weren't able to keep up with the incredible quality that a lot of indie brands are giving us at this time. And I think one of the reasons is that they just wanted to stay at that very affordable price point. You won't get that quality that you get from Bella Beauté Bar or Ensley Rain or Unearthly Cosmetics. You will not get that from Colourpop or from Juvia's Place. And it's just not the same thing, and we have to be okay with that at that price point. It's just the name of the game, and it's what we are expecting from these indie brands. We are expecting to get super special shades from Adept Cosmetics. We're expecting to get a full palette of just these special shades. Well, then the palette's going to be $100 because that's just how much it's going to cost to fulfill that expectation of a professional website, a good packaging with great formulas that are truly special. That's just how much it costs. If we would start swooning over mattes and a good shimmer and a duochrome again, we would be able to have much less expensive palettes on the market. I can tell you that, but it just doesn't impress people anymore. I feel like Shania Twain. That doesn't impress me much. And it's a shame. It's a shame because honestly, I do love a good shimmer every now and then. I'm even wearing just a good shimmer on my lid now, although I will say this shade here is technically a multi-chrome. I don't know if the look with this palette is live yet. If it is, I will leave it down below. I'm filming with a palette that hasn't been revealed yet, so check the description box in case you're interested in this look. I think it's absolutely stunning. It is with, as I'm filming this, upcoming indie palette, but it might already have been revealed, so check the description box for that. Let me know what you think. Are you preferring this era of super polished, like amazing quality indie product at a higher price tag, or do you long for the days when a 9-pan with a couple of mattes and a duochrome would impress us at a price point that's a little bit more affordable? I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I know that this is something that I've been talking about quite a bit. And also, what do you think about my just me speculating around more brands, less quantity, less consumers? What do you think about that? Do you think that that could have something to do with it as well? I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave because I do review quite a lot of indie makeup here still on my channel. That is still the bread and butter of my channel because I love indie makeup so much, and I would love to see you in my next video real soon. Bye!